becoming dry, then the river will maybe dry up. So it was fearful of going forward. And then he or she or whatever, the drop, heard a voice saying, don't be fearful, just move forward. Trust that everything will be perfect the way it will be. And the drop trusted this voice. And then the river dried out and the drop became a cloud and was traveling in the winds and was traveling and traveling. And then it became rain. And then it ended up in the big ocean. And so the story of this little drop is that he was dreaming of the big river and was anxious of leaving his own small river. But in the end, trusting the process and transformation, it became the big ocean and part of something really, really big he never imagined to be before.
Wow. And then once upon a time, the drop of water realized that water doesn't begin or end. Water is everywhere. And water is always part of the biggest connection of water, which is all that there is. So, except in like really arid parts where the water amounts is really low, but it's always there. Water's everywhere. But anyway, just love the story. All right, I will facilitate this one, and then how I would love to do it is taking a note from Samara. There's this cool little policy that we had where at the start of each one of our calls, we actually all voted in a facilitator that time after everyone did their check-in, so we can kind of gauge energy and see who wants to do it, and then everyone kind of nominated who they wanted to be facilitator that time. Why? Because I believe we're all kind of facilitators. That's what we're doing here. We're learning how to hold that space. So it'd be really nice to be able to rotate that around and get us all practice. If you don't want to be a facilitator, that's fantastic. You just deny it, and it goes to whoever was voted up second most, and so on and so forth until someone's like, yep, I want to do it. So we can keep that in mind for next time, and we can prepare ourselves. And somehow a bunch of people are still joining, which is fine. Cool. Let's do a quick round of check-ins. You can drop in, say how you're doing, where your energy's at. If you have anything you want to add to the agenda item, / any inspiring thoughts, wisdoms, whatever you have related to Renaissance architects that you want to bring into this space right now to set the stage. So we can do that. And let me pass it to whoever wants to go first, and then just pass it when you're done.
I can just go. I spoke already. I am really good this morning. It's a lovely, still chilly, but beautiful morning in Germany, Hamburg. And I came back from my roller skate lesson just recently. So I had a lot of fun already outside. And I'm here mainly to observe and listen in to get more clarity, because I'm trying to figure out all the different energies and things that are popping up in Haifa seeds and everywhere, so that we find alignment in everything. So that's also why I would not like to facilitate, to really be aware of all the different things that are coming up. But I'm super excited about this happening here. So yeah, hopefully I can contribute a little bit as well. And I pass it on to Max.
Hello. I've got an iPad from my sister, so I'm newly equipped, and hopefully you can hear me well and see me well. I have spent the morning outside as well, and it's beautiful, and it was actually warm and nice, and now I'm back inside and I'm so cold. I'm just shivering. But I feel great, and I look forward to get more into the handbook and clarify what we are going to create and do. And I pass it on to Alan.
Thank you, Max. Thank you. I just went outside right now for this meeting. It's a beautiful sunny day. And yeah, I thought, you know, like the Renaissance architect meeting, you know, that should have some nice background and a great atmosphere. So I'm excited and really looking forward to what's going to come out in this call. So yeah, and also hello to everyone. There's so many people here. I love it. So I'm gonna pass it on to Bongi.
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, I'm in a kind of self-care place. On Friday, I had a bit of an allergic reaction. So I've had sort of 3 days of real sleep, which is probably really good because I feel like for this, I'm going to be in quite a listening mood. I'm also taking notes. So I've just started a document. I'll drop the link in the chat. And yeah, really just looking forward to listening more, learning more, getting more of a sense of where this space is moving, and appreciating everyone who's here. And I will pass on to Anna.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. I'm in a very weird mood this morning, and I almost didn't make it to this call because I hadn't realized the time had changed. So, yeah, just grateful to be here. Thank you. I'll pass it on to Roz.
Thank you, Anna. I feel like this week has got off with a real bang. I suddenly seem to have a day full of calls today, but I'm feeling excited and energetic. In this space, I'm mostly here to listen, to find out more about whether I'm resonating with the Architects Academy or whether something like an Alchemist Academy or whatever that evolves into might be more like my space to contribute. So I'm here with curiosity and fascination, and I will pass it to Dimitri.
Thank you, Rose. I had an amazing day today, spent lots of time in the nature, had a beautiful healing ceremony with Kambo. And yeah, I was needing quite a bit of rest after that. But I'm here and I'm happy to be here. And I'm here to get a full picture and vision what it's gonna be. And yeah, to get a download on architects and alchemists. And I'll pass it to Irina.
Thank you, Dimitri. Yeah, it's a really beautiful day. I can see that everyone sharing from Europe. Sunny and spring is coming. I'm carrying this beautiful energy and I'm looking forward for the call today. I'm passing to Tyler.
Thanks, Irina. Hey, everyone. Good to see a lot of familiar faces, a couple new ones. I woke up 12 minutes ago, so just definitely not wanting to facilitate and also not feeling prepared to do that at all. But I think resonating with a lot of people in terms of why I'm here. Just check this out, understand how this fits in with other initiatives going on around seeds, Typhus, Mara, just to get clarity. But really excited to be here and see so many people. I'll pass it over to Julio.
Hi there, and good morning from Brazil. I kind of woke up a few minutes ago either, so but I'm already getting into the energy, getting into this new week and this new day, and I sense a very great energy forming for the week. And what I bring today is the idea for us to start using this Kanban board that I built, like I suggested the last meeting, and maybe we can use it as a tool to give some kind of continuity to the work besides the documents, because the documents also give this sense of continuity, but also for us to track the stuff that we're doing and know who is working on what. So maybe that could help and I want to present that later in the meeting. So happy to be here, and I'll pass on to Justin.
Hey guys, I like how like hard Samara showed up today. It's just like I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm appreciating just that that experience. I I don't know. Yeah, I'm like a 92. I also woke up like maybe 7 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago. So I'm kind of eating a donut and finding myself. I'm looking forward to I think we started making structures or like scaffolding out this like kind of curriculum or a way these talks are going to happen, and I realized that maybe I had retained some of that. I watched the video again, but also maybe wasn't necessarily sure how we got to these kind of 4 pillars, and so I was interested in maybe seeing if we could touch back on that again. And you know, kind of give it these little pockets, the pioneer of architect and alchemist, and we have these kind of now we have this little, you know, foundational 4 of our types of sessions. And so just like touching that again would be helpful for me to make sure that I understand where these things are coming from and how they are properly setting a foundation of that is solid. That's me. Can I pass to Reiki?
Ooh, sure. I'm feeling fantastic. It's been a very generative last couple of weeks. Just feeling. Someone made a comment that I really enjoy. It's like I'm sitting next to a well and drinking from this wellspring of life, and I'm like, that does feel about right. Thanks. So anyway, feeling pretty awesome. Really looking forward to today. There's a lot to cover. And I will, is there anyone else who hasn't gone? There's a couple people, I know that. Apostle, Andrea, yes. How do I say your name, Apostle?
You say it well. That's how you pronounce it. Yeah. So I woke up today and walked my dog in a nearby hill. It's a very good weather here in Europe. And I'm having, I currently have 2 weeks away from my job, and this is my first day where I'll explore more in seeds, in the seeds ecosystem, and I'm just looking for discovering what the Renaissance architects concept is about, and would love to see where this conversation goes. Yeah. Andrea?
Thank you, Apostle. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm also starting this week with a lot of energy. I spent the weekend in my garden and had electricity failure, which was a nice experience. I enjoyed it very much because I intended to work and then was forced not to work, which universe provided for me because it was needed. I was very exhausted and now I feel much better this week. Yeah, I'm joining here still, finding my place. I feel an inner urge to play in this group, but also need to figure how I best contribute still. So I would also step back from facilitating to rather have more time to feel in, if that's possible. I think, Joao, did you speak? Or I'm not sure here who's missing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. I have just woke up also. I'm here. Yeah, I had learned and read a lot and research about and listing every platforms and tools and many thoughts and here to also if you have something to share, I would like to and be here also to listen. Yeah, good morning.
Ooh, excellent. Thank you all. I only heard one agenda item during that, which is totally fine because I have plenty. So Julio, you got the Kanban board. Maybe I could pass it to you first. You can show that off, and then I can dive into some of the stuff that I've got to cover today.
Okay, so let me share the URL, the link, and can I share my screen?
Sure can.
Cool. Okay, let's paste the link here. And going to share my screen.
I put the link to this Kanban in the handbook as well, so it can be found there all the time. And any links that any of the circles make, please reference them back to the handbook so that we have one document that has links to everything so we can keep it all organized.
Okay, so here we are. So this is a Kanban created on the Haifa.earth ecosystem, Kanban.haifa.earth. It's an open source Kanban framework called We Can. That's great for organizing work for many distributed teams. And it's basically comprised of a few cards. Of course, all of you kind of heard about Kanbans before, I guess. But the idea is that the cards go from left to right. So that's the idea for Kanban, most of the cards at least, right? So this one here with info and links is just a card that never moves. It's it's always stuck there for the information about what's this Kanban is about. And then you have here this swim lane that we call swim lanes are these kind of rows in the Kanban that are separated from the others, right? So these ones are kind of the main deliveries for us, right? The main strategic deliveries that are also associated with the OKRs that Reiki proposed on the document and last time. And I actually added one here called Haifa Quest Approved, because I believe we are going to submit a quest to get maybe some funds for this project, for this circle. Actually, I'm calling this a circle. This is not even a circle yet, but it's another thing that maybe it's another agenda item for today. What's the structure of this space, right? So here are the other milestones, right? First course launched, and I'm writing them purposefully on the past tense like this to indicate how we can vision this as done, as complete, right? So this is how I like to do this. I like to write it in the past tense. So when we read this card, the first course is launched. So is it launched? So if it's launched, we can of course move it to done. But if it's not launched, so it's still on planning or selected or doing, on reviewing or whatever other state the card is in, right? So game guide version 1 is approved. Fellows selected and acquainted. Okay, this maybe needs some more explanation, but this is the actually mentioned in the document, but these are the architects that are going to be stewarding each of the sections, each of the 4 sections. So for this card to be done, we need at least one fellow for each of the categories and selected, and they are acquainted with the work that they have to do, and they are ready to do it, right? And this is the referendum for the V1 of the game guide submitted for the constitution to be voted. Actually, referendum for this first version of the game guide to be amended by the citizens, right? And then here, the other lanes are more like daily stuff that we can do, right? So tasks are basically stuff that we can do, like one single shots, right? For instance, Kanban ready. I did this, so this is done. Actually, I'm reviewing this with you now, so this is why it's here. And this is the. I think there was a call to create an invitation form, and this is the this is the item here that was captured by me on the last call. I don't know, there was someone I think that said they could do it, but I didn't capture right now. So actually you can have checklists inside each of the cards. That's, for instance, in order for this invitation form to be ready, I need to do some stuff, and then to do some more stuff, and then do even more stuff. And when all this is done, the card is complete, right? So this is part of how this works. So it's a very great tool for us to track stuff. And then I have another kind of field here that's called reward. And this is the swim lane for what I call mini quests, for just for us to not confuse with quests on Haifa and quests, because this is another thing. But here, these cards would be cards that can pay maybe a Haifa USD or maybe seeds, or maybe in some kind of currency. They're like paid quests, paid stuff that we can do here. So suppose someone wants to work on this. This is something that has an agreed reward, so we know who is supposed to be working on that. So if I create a card like this, I am the creator, but I can also assign someone to be working on here, and this assignee is the one that's responsible for delivering it, and at the end it's the one that's going to be receiving the rewards. So the rewards can be a Haifa USD, or can be seeds, or whatever. So and actually this is already one thing that was mentioned before, that's the art for the space, that requires maybe someone with artistic skills that's going to be developing this. So it's not a single task thing, but it's actually a kind of a mini project. So we can see these quests are mini projects that are going to be using the budget that we are going to approve here with the Haifa quest. So this is one way that I propose we give clarity on how these funds are being used. So the Arts of Space is going to cost, I don't know, 2,000 USD. So when it's done, so here it means it's selected to be starting, and doing means someone is already doing it. And when it's done, ready for review, we're here. And when it's actually done, everyone reviewed and it's okay, it's considered delivered, we move it to the done row, and it's done. And then the payment is actually made for this person. So this is it. I don't know if there is any questions or comments, or I'll pause here.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. A few things to add to that is we'll have a seats. Let me share my screen actually. Did anyone have any questions for Julio before I dive in? Cool. Thank you for doing that. Let me.
Yeah. So one last thing maybe is to mention that if we are okay with using this tool, maybe we should go over the tool at the start of the meeting. So just to say, okay, how are we? What happened? What changed? So it's a quick status check. Like we can go over the items in maybe in 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. So I'm proposing we change the agreements for this call for the facilitator to go over the Kanban at the start of just after the check-ins. We do a brief review of the Kanban to see how are we in terms of the tasks and deliveries. So supposed to be quick, but doesn't have to be a deep exploration of each of the subjects, but a quick one-liner for each of the cards that are selected and being done. Okay. So I'd like to check if there is any objection on us using this new agreement for this group, for this circle. So after we do the check-ins, we can go over the Kanban. Is there any objections on doing this?
No objection at all, but just a comment that I think there's actually a few different agreements that were proposed, just like that, like the idea that we would track our actual funding, individual compensation based on contribution is based on movement through the Kanban system as an agreement. It's like inherent in what you said, not what you're proposing right now, but I just wanted to call that out. There's a few things that actually were kind of laid out in the process of what the Kanban represented that's different than what we're agreeing to right now. And I don't know if we need to agree to those things or not, or at least make those things visible so that we have the opportunity to adjust or be aware of what those things are and how they may impact the game that we're playing here.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, you're right. So I am kind of adding, it's quite a lot to take in actually, but you're right. So the only agreements that I'm proposing right now is we do the check-in and then we check the Kanban. About the resource, this is just a suggestion of how we can track that, but I'm not sure if we can use this as an agreement yet, unless we are ready to do this, because we don't even have the HiFi approved, so we don't even have a budget yet. So I think maybe in order for us to start using this as a budgeting tool, we need to have like maybe another call to kind of create the mini quests or the projects that we see for the upcoming, and then kind of budget that and say, okay, we need maybe 10,000 USDs, and that's how much we are going to ask. And then we divide this budget among some of the deliverables. But yeah, so as I wanted to take it easy with this, as for it to me not too much to take in. The only agreement that I'm proposing right now is for us to check the Kanban at the start of the meeting and not to track the quests, the mini quests. This is for now. I'm proposing this is optional, right? As soon as we have them, we may start to use this tool to track them. That's what I'm proposing. Okay.
Any other thoughts, feedback for Julio before we keep flowing? Cool. Yeah, I think that's a really good point about getting clear on what the HiFi quest looks like. So what I'm actually doing is I'm proposing a quest. So I'm putting one together today and tomorrow to get some funding. And if that gets approved, then the next call that we have, so 1 week from now, we'll have feedback on the status of that quest. And then we could break it down into how we actually want to, distribute those funds. Do we want roles? Do we want quest base? So that will be the focus of next week's call. Like, okay, how do we pay ourselves? What are we doing? So yeah, just keeping that in mind of where that's going. Cool. Yeah, Bongi, you said you actually created a type form, so that's on our next thing of doing stuff. Did you have any questions or thoughts about that, or did you want to share what you built and get any feedback? What do you want to do, Bongi?
Yeah, to be honest, I drafted it on Friday and then I've just been out for the count. So it's more, actually, Anna was the one who said a kind of basic structure. So I haven't spent very much time on it. I've shared the link already in the chat. I think it's a good start. I mean, we don't want to make it too long, but I'd be interested to hear other people's ideas about what questions we want to ask, because that's what I haven't really done, is sat down and reviewed it and really thought about, like, as a group, what would be great for us to know, to cross-pollinate between each other, to really gain some insight about, what the group, where the group energy is in relation to this Architects Academy. So Anna laid down a really nice starter structure. I have added the option of also files. If someone wanted to upload a file, I thought that might be quite interesting to see what people might upload. I'm not sure if I need to talk through it. I would ask what, because I took the task on, but I'd be interested to hear the person who wrote down sort of suggesting the form, which I think was you, Rieki. if you had an aim in mind for it, or if there's any kind of background thoughts that I didn't capture. And then I was just wondering what's the first step in using it really? Is the idea to share it more widely? And yeah, I just love a couple more people to look over it and to have a little bit more time to look over it before sharing it more widely. With those thoughts in mind.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna roll us back a little bit to provide a little bit more structure to the space so that we can have a little bit more generative way forward. Structure for this, it's gonna be a little bit feeling chaotic, but I really like the pods concept that has been launched recently. So for each one of these doing stuffs, we can launch a pod where we have one person leading that stuff. So this example is the type form. The invite, and then people can join that pod if they want to have input on creating it, so that we're not doing it as a full group, because right now we have 18 people, and I'm going to make a wild suggestion that not all 18 people want to be here for creating this space. So that's what I'd actually love to do in this full call that we're all getting together, is more coordinating the pods activities. So similar to how Haifa has a collective sensing call that's bringing together all the circles and just doing the overall coordinating, I feel that that's what we're going to be doing in this space. And then it'll slowly break down to where we just have the leads coming together here, and then people are getting together in the pods where they actually want to be, so that we could be more active and generative with the time that we have together. So what I really love to do then is just design pods around the stuff that needs doing. So if people want to be part of the invite form, just go ahead and add your name here, and then they can all get together offline. You guys can coordinate what time you actually want to get together, and then have a call and go through designing the invitation form and going about how to set that up. Same thing for every one of these different quests that need to be getting done. And then we could all join the Kanban, put our names on there, and then whoever's name is on it, they're just going to be the lead. So that the L is there, and that's just one person who's overseeing actually setting up the calls and moving things forward, bringing people together, and making things happen. Does that make sense? Is there any questions on that minimal viable structure that we have right now? I'm sure more structure will evolve as we mature, but this is just the very basic structure to kind of get us going and moving forward. Any questions on that? Thoughts, feedback? Cool. Well, then with that being said, I want to go over some of the doing stuffs that need to be done, and we can have people apply to be the lead and just hold it down. And then if you want to be part of that pod, just put your name next to it and we can start filling it out. So the Kanban board was already done. Julio, did you want to build a pod to keep building the Kanban board, or do you feel like you're basically done there? Do you want more support? What do you think?
For me, this is done. Actually, I'm adding this doing stuff to the Kanban right now. So we can, instead of adding our names to this document, we could add our names as or faces to the cards there. Maybe it's another way to track that, and it's easier than I mean, to track which status these things are, So I'm adding that there. I think people need to kind of register quickly for the Kanban. It's a one form, really short form, where you type in your name and your email and input a password, and then you're done. So it should be really easy to get started. There's even not a need to confirm the email, but then you can start to add your names to the items there. So this is just a. But if you don't feel comfortable doing this now, we can still keep using the document, and I can translate that to the Kanban for the next session.
For today, I'm just going to use this doing stuff here, and then starting next week, I'll move to the Kanban and just delete this section, just because my mind's already working this way. But if you want for the Kanban, then I just shared the link in there. Feel free to hop in there and register while we're going over this stuff. Cool, then this is done. We don't need anyone else's on this. Type form, the Google form. So the invitation is next week now is our timeline for when we're actually going to announce when the Renaissance Academy will start, or the Renaissance Architects sessions will start. And right now I have them slated to start 1 month from now. So next week we'll send out the invites. So the type form is an invitation for people. So this is a questionnaire that they'll answer for us to get a good judge. Is this person going to be good for the Renaissance Architect sessions? Do they actually understand what the space is about? Do they know some of the required materials that need to be, understood to be able to effectively show up in this space? What's their intention here? That sort of thing, so that we can do our first round of triaging what core group we're going to bring together. Because again, we want it to be a really tight container with people who are really focused, because that's going to help us be the most generative rather than cycling back into surface conversations. So the type form, the invitation form it's pretty critical to be able to set our intention and find the people that want to play with us. So if you want to be part of this, I'm saying Bangi, I'm assuming you want to be lead on this because you took charge. Is that appropriate assumption, or what do you think?
Yeah, great. I'm also realizing as you're speaking, I'm having ideas about changing it into sections and having it much more educational in the sense of giving people context as they're answering the questions. So yeah, I'm happy to take lead on it. I think there's a nice starter structure there, but I can see lots of ways that we can enhance it based on what's in the document at the moment.
Excellent. Does anybody else want to join Bangi in doing that invitation?
Yeah, sure, I do.
Was that Anna?
Yes, it was.
Cool. If you want to join this, add your name here, and then Bangi and I and Anna will know to reach out to you when we set up a call to dive into that. Or maybe we just have a Discord channel where we're breaking it down. The next thing that needs doing, I'm looking for a lead here, is an invitation flyer. So the type form invitation is what they actually go through. We need some flyer that we actually send out. We put it on Discord, our email list, Telegram, that sort of thing. This is just a beautiful piece of art that says, hey, Renaissance Academy, and a little quick thing that says what it's about. Does anyone feel like taking this on? I have an anonymous kangaroo thinking about it. Once, twice. Okay.
I can.
Who's that?
I can help with making the flyer. Some art, some cool art. Drawn.
Excellent. Okay, so I got a lead here. If you want to help with this in any way, reach out to. Okay. Also, we have the IME circle, so you can tag storytellers in the Discord, and there's a lot of resources there for doing art. So just PM me and I'll tell you who you can get in touch with, and they can help. We also have doing a seeds campaign. So I will be putting together the Haifa quest for tomorrow, getting compensation for the core team. So most everyone here who's actually going to pick up a role and move forward with us. But we are wanting also a seeds campaign for giving some seeds out to all the people who actually attend the Renaissance Architect sessions. So does somebody want to be the lead on putting together that campaign and seeing it happen on the seeds front?
I could work on that.
Ooh, who is that?
Andrea.
Yep, awesome.
Would be nice to have a second person for sparring.
Yeah, I can jump onto it too. Don't feel like being a lead though.
I can help also, Irina.
Excellent. Art for the space. So this is just general artists that were creating art during the calls, during the sessions, making arts, any art that really inspires them, anything dealing with the Renaissance architect. So this is artists. Is there any artists in the group that want to make art? Art is a foundation for any Renaissance, so we need artists, right?
Can I just find cool pictures online and bring them to people? I have to do art myself, or what's the like, my curator, or have to be a creator for this role?
Art curator here.
Yeah, and I can. Sorry, I can contribute with a little bit of drawing. Yeah.
I'm also an amateur artist, so I can join there as well. Sounds fun.
Yeah, I've seen it done before where like during calls, people are just creating art, you know, and key concepts and stuff. I just think that's gorgeous. So just, yeah. Have clarity on roles. This isn't really a to-doing, kind of, maybe it is, but this is going to be the focus of next week's call. Once we get the Haifa quest through, and then we can get a lot of clarity on what that actually means and fill out roles for it. So, awesome. Unless you had any other
I already
questions.
have some ideas. Yeah, I already have some ideas. I put it up before the next call as a proposal.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. And then we had an updated architect's handbook. So anybody want to actually take this handbook, which is the crazy brain dump and some of it's repetitive, and make it not terrible? Anyone want to be the lead on that?
Well, I'd like to work on that for sure.
I would like to help at that as well. Yeah.
Who is that, Dr. Julio?
Apostle.
I kind of took the liberty of putting your name, Anna, but only because you talked about being a scribe. Is that accurate for you? And totally feel free to say no if this isn't something you want to do.
That is accurate for me.
Say again?
Yeah, no, I'm happy that my name isn't in there.
Cool, awesome. And out of all these people here, who wants to be the lead on this? To be the one that's actually editing it and putting together the calls to make it happen?
I'd like that.
All right. L is for lead, kind of like a lamplighter, not loser, which is an unfortunate connotation in America. Forgive me, guys, I'm weird. Cool, awesome. So that's all the stuff that needs doing. At least for my mind, everything else that needs doing that I just hear that would be pretty.
I have one question regarding the Haifa quest. You have already numbers in mind on how much do you intend to ask, or in terms of the OKRs? I think you already outlined that a little bit, but you have an idea of regarding the numbers? Oh, 55K USD. And how do you correlate this number with the deliveries? Is there any idea in mind already, or how do you get to this number?
Yeah, awesome question. This is us running by the seat of our pants, so to speak. So it'll be managed by the three of us, which are already filling roles in Haifa. And there's going to be a lot of quests, or rather trust, on us to manage these funds effectively. So that's what we're actually relying on here in this particular quest, or at least what I'm going to be relying on when I propose this, is that we're not entirely sure how we're designing it. So that's not clarified up front, but we are saying we're taking 55, we're putting it in a pool, we're going to use it to the best of our ability, and this is where we're headed. And then it's about designing how we want to spend this. If we're doing really amazing things, which we would be if we're paying things out and it's being overseen by some really trustworthy people in Haifa, and we run out of funds because the team's growing and we're just being able to accomplish way more, then I fully intend to go back and ask for more if this isn't, as much as we need. On the inverse side of that, if we can accomplish all of this and we have a tight team and we don't have to spend it all, also great. So it's kind of, this is more of a trust / exercise on how to design a new, space like this, because it hasn't really been done in Haifa before. And doing it it's far too arbitrary. Just that'll be the reality of it. So come in here, make ARs and some arbitrary numbers to it. So rather than going through that, it's kind of a waste of an exercise to come up with arbitrary figures. We're saying, hey, we're looking for this amount, we're going to manage it well, and we'll see how it goes. That's my thinking on it.
Okay, so it's like a seeds. it's kind of a seed capital investment that we get from Haifa to start to get started. That's what you're proposing, right? It's a set of funds that we can use to see how well we use those funds, and then we can maybe hone this as we go, right? So it's like a starting point, right?
Exactly, right. And also for a minimal viable structure to get going, I'm proposing this just be a circle within Haifa. And then if we evolve to the point of breaking off and becoming our own do, great. But again, let's wait for us to mature and make those decisions down the road and not try to add all that complexity to get going. Is again my perspective on it, but I would love to hear if there's any other thoughts on that before.
Just like presence, the vision is like we're doing a kind of tools of regenerative renaissance kind of vibe as a prototype or as a kind of pilot for an actual academy that would be something more formal, kind of like the Ambassador Academy, but also more emergent, like not so structured and like cyclical, but more like a ongoing venture that we're all kind of already in, but yet hasn't really been established, but we're playing the game right now by doing this thing. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, definitely. I can paint this a little bit differently. Well, not differently. I can paint on top of this. It's one of Haifa's KRs very explicitly to get the game guide out. That's one of the major things that Haifa is doing for Seeds. So we're actually serving Haifa in that endeavor, which is what Reiki and Nick are doing here. Yes, I talked about myself in the third person. So that's what Haifa is paying this group for, is for that effort. In addition to that, we've been talking about putting together some coursework, which isn't part of Haifa's explicit KRs to teach the game guide. Like that's not part of what Haifa is saying it's going to provide Seeds. So that's where this can then evolve into its own do, where after we've done this first, we've proposed version 1.0. Well, now we've also put together courses, which let's go up to look at some roles. Yep, here we go. So this is what these beautiful souls have already signed up to be doing, is putting this course design together and even facilitating the course going forward. This probably won't happen under Haifa. This will likely happen under some different, either a different organization or maybe part of an existing do that's emerged at that time, who knows? And then getting direct funding from Seeds and maybe even an incubator funding from Haifa to get going. So that's kind of how I see this evolving going forward, is that this is then an ongoing university space for teaching and involving Seeds going forward. And I actually think it's really necessary that this does separate from Haifa, because that's what creates resiliency in this ecosystem. So it's not Haifa that's continuing to drive the wisdom and evolution of Seeds. There's other spaces that are providing that wisdom and making proposals and stuff, i.e. the space we're talking about here. Yeah, so that's kind of how I see it right now, but of course, things definitely change as things mature. I'll pause here if there's any thoughts, feedback, or questions about any of that. I just noticed, Alan, that you have a hand up. I don't know how long that's been up, but
quite a while, but it's totally fine. I wanted to just bring up a subject in this space, and that is concerning the just cooperation that we're having between Haifa and the Seeds Project and Samara. I would actually, maybe this document is not the right place, but I would really like to suggest it's an own role or KR, which job is to make sure that the communication and flow of information between Haifa, Samara, and Seeds works out really well. Because way too often, it's the only solution we have for that is to write someone on Discord, or if they have time to have a talk. So yeah, bridge communicator. And yeah, I'd take the lead on that, unless somebody else feels that they're better equipped for this. So I'm no expert on this, but if no one else wants to, I'll take the lead on it. And so what's so important about this is now that Samara has basically created its body. Yeah, now that Samara has created its body, I wanna, and I think we want to have like just a coherent, nice flow of information. And not just that, I want a space where Haifa can ask for specific help from Samara and the other way around. So I'd like to, yeah, I'd like to do that. And yeah, so yeah, thanks for listening, and thanks for writing the bridge communicator.
Yeah, and I would interpret that under that role then, if you're communicating with seeds, it might make sense that you're overseeing the proposal to seeds itself as well for this space. Because that's part of communicating with seeds, but maybe not, just putting that out there. As there's already people who are doing that. Yeah, so you weren't actually part of that. Do you want to be part of that space as well?
Yes, I do. If it helps with the bridging, absolutely. Yeah, that's a big desire of mine, to have a nice just, back and forth without the time constraints of always waiting and so on. And I want a space for people to just, put in what they need right now from the other body. Yep.
Excellent. All right, so I'm gonna bring an end to the doing stuff bit. So if you've got an L next to your name, feel free to then reach out to the other people that are on here, find a time at some point that fits for everyone to then hop in and do the doing of each one of these things. So we won't be doing that in this space. And in the next call, it's really the weekly call that we're gonna hear something that's doing, or we have some feedback that we have to bring to everyone or whatever. This is more of a coordination space and less of an actual doing space. Doing the doing. Yep. All right, let's hop over to the timeline. I'm all over the place here. See, this is why I need a better handbook. Let's find timeline. All right. Here we are. Okay. So yeah, May 3rd is the invitation session. So that means, yeah, and we'll do it at the end. So the invitation might be just like 10 minutes of us being recorded, sharing something inspirational to people to talk about what this space is actually about. So the next call is when we're actually gonna talk about what that 10 minutes will consist of, designing it, and then ending the call with that 10-minute invitation, recording it, taking that section out, and actually sharing it with the type form and the art. So for that to be able to occur, we need some of that doings done, which is, well, basically all of it. So it looks like those tasks aren't very involved. So I'm gonna assume that we might be able to get them done in a week. If you're one of the leads on that and you don't feel like you can get it done in a week, please let me know, and we can always push this back. What I think is perfectly fine is that we're kind of going at the pace of how this Renaissance wants to emerge, and not force anything. So it's a big deal. And then what I have set right now is that May 24th, so that gives 3 weeks for the invitation to go out for us to actually continue preparing ourselves, building structure, getting ready for it, selecting the attendees, giving them time to actually apply for it and all that stuff. And it gets us ready to be able to get version 0.1 of the game guide ready as well. So cool, that's what I'm seeing next on our timeline. Any questions, thoughts, feedback, anything at all related to that? Easy then. Cool. That's kind of all. Someone unmuted themselves. Is there a question?
I have a question, Irina. For the invitation and for asking for other people to join, I had a question out there about the rhythm that we are proposing. Are we proposing to people to have a sort of a 1 week dedication to the architect section per week, or are we doing it like more days, or what was the rhythm that we are expecting people to dedicate time for this topic?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I can tell you how I'm seeing it, and I would actually really love to sense check this with everyone here. My biggest question is whether it's going to be 60 minutes or 90 minutes. But how I'm seeing it is it's once a week. We'll pick the later time, my later time. So it's a little bit later in the morning for people in the western part of the world. So the later time that we have for this space, but an hour to an hour and a half a week is what we're asking. So it's one session a week that we get together and we keep going through the game guide until we get it through. So we don't actually know how many sessions they're going to be. It's kind of open-ended there. I can assume that we're probably going to need at least 8 or maybe 10, but we're going until we're done. Is kind of the intention there. And yeah, no reason.
I think Irina also mentions the time for doing these tasks, right? So because if we only come to these meetings, we won't be doing the tasks. So I think the pods should also meet at least once per week besides this meeting here, weekly meeting, so we can get the tasks done. And this meeting doesn't have to be too long, depending on how much the pod realizes. So I think besides these meetings, these gatherings here, we should have at least one with the pods, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I want to separate this for a bit. We need better names. I'm just going to call people who are attending the Renaissance sessions. So we're taking the opportunities. That's what I'm saying. We're expecting 60 to 90 minutes a week from. As far as people holding roles within this space, i.e. people on this call that are actually setting up pods, it's up to your pod how much time is required to actually get that work done. And the call that we're having here, I actually want to break it down so other people can attend, but only people that are required to attend or expected to are the leads. So the same thing with any of the collective sensing spaces that you see, where the leads all come together here, they say what's going on in their pods, they're bringing that information, and then they bring that back to their pod. So then you're only really then expected to, within your role, attend your pod calls, however many pods that you're a part of. So that's how I kind of see this forming. And that it depends on what your task is. It might require more or less of you, depending on what you're taking on. And then, of course, what we're hoping that attendees of the Renaissance sessions are doing is it's not just attending the sessions, but throughout the week going through some of the reading material that we're providing, leaving feedback and questions on the game guide itself, reading the game guide more, thinking about other things. So, we're hoping that it's more involved rather than just attending the sessions, but there's no expectation for that. Is how I see it. But again, does that ring true for everyone? Is there questions to that? Any amendments that want to be made?
I'll just say how I feel. Like I feel like everything makes sense, and I can see how it's kind of it's something. There's an aim at something very particular, and I can tell there's a direction that it's moving in. I can tell it's got a sense of itself. But as I'm sensing it, I don't really have coherence or kind of even it's actually a tightness in my chest, a little bit of a wooziness. I'm not really, it's a lot, because it's not because the things that you're saying, they're all kind of discreetly make sense themselves, but there's something about what is happening that doesn't necessarily, it's like a central point or a groundedness or a something that isn't there. So I'm not trying to just point out what's not there and not be a solution, but I'm saying that because it's how I feel in my body. And then I'm saying that also because I think the thing may be something like trying to understand, okay, so where is the architectness? Is that what we're doing? Is that what someone's learning how to do by learning how to go through the game guide? But is the game guide as a course enough to really help you learn how to be an architect? So there's this little bit of emergent quality, which makes sense. There's also these kind of larger thematics that are being brought up that don't necessarily, I can't really figure out how to fit them into the things that are actually happening. So I feel that's the disconnect maybe I'm feeling between the intentionality or even just the prospect or the largeness of the state of the themes, and then and theme I mean just Renaissance architects, like you're an architect, but you're an architect, but you're the coordinating architect, but you're the one that's showing up for the classes. I don't know what's happening that way. So I'm a little bit, or lamplight doesn't have to come. You know, does that make sense? It's a lot of like give and takeness, or like come or don't come, but there's also a lot of title, and that makes me kind of confused as one aspect of maybe what's making me dizzy. Yeah.
Ooh, this is how I interpreted that, and thank you so much for bringing that up. But it's I keep forgetting about this alchemist space because I'm so like, you know, focused on the architect space. And I think this is actually incredibly valuable. Some of you might have watched the call that Roz put together with an incredible human, and I'm forgetting her name at this moment.
Emily.
Yep.
Emily.
There you go. And we were talking about an alchemist space, so some of you might be able to watch that. I think that's incredible, and actually I think these things can happen both at the same time. So if there's an expectation for 60 to 90 minutes to attend the architect space, it might be really great to have a secondary invitation where people can attend the alchemist space, which is maybe a similar ask, and they can both be happening simultaneously. So as people apply, they could say, I'm applying just to architects or just alchemists, or I'm going to be applying to both of them. And both of these things could be happening, in cohesion. And I think that would be really powerful. But in order to do that, I think we need to weave the same questions into the invitation, kind of put them in together, because I think they can and probably, ought to. This is what we came to last time, and I just spaced it, to have the balance of those two spaces happening. So thank you so much for bringing that up, because I just forgot a total half of this organism. So what would be really powerful is if someone wants to be the lead on putting together the alchemist space. So just kind of how we have a handbook of the architect space like this, it would be really powerful to do something very similar and speak to the alchemist space. What does that actually look like? And kind of duplicate what we've got going on here. Is that something that you wanted to be, holding the core for, Justin?
Yeah, I think it's not just me either. I think Samara, I'll check in like with the crew, but like it's like I think that Samara as a whole has interest in that. So I think Justin and Samara with some help from Reiki, I think I put in the chat that you have like you have quest confidence and some like solid authority. And so I think if we can have like being in relationship to this, but also maybe giving it a little bit of space to be like to ask the questions or move at the pace, maybe that's more alchemical than architectural, then I think that maybe that will be important too. So having it come out of like Alan was kind of pointing to, like this kind of coordination between bodies, by having the bodies being able to hold their own space, but having this kind of like joint initiative. I think that'd be really beautiful. So that's kind of what I would say in response to what I heard. But yeah, I'm into it.
Awesome.
I feel like Roz still around? I feel like she has a perspective that's probably helpful to it.
Yes, yeah, I'm here, and listening very intently. And to me, the alchemist part is really vital. And I would maybe, it could either run alongside architects, or maybe in advance of architects. But either way, Justin, I would be delighted to work with you on that, to take that forward. And I second your request to Reiki to put in a quest request for the alchemists.
Yeah, I also feel that it would be really clever to have basically a, so to say, Samara quest concerning this, so that we actually don't always have to coordinate with Haifa or the Seeds project on this. So yeah, I definitely also help out with the alchemist space, but yeah, I think it would be good to have that as a quest in itself to Samara. So yeah, basically what I said.
Yeah, I mean, I really love that pattern, because I see Samara, one, having the energy, the grounding, the space to hold for this to actually run the alchemist part of it. So I actually see that quest coming to Haifa for the alchemist space coming from Samara. And then this could be a partnership, like Haifa is bringing the alchemist, the architect piece, Tamara is bringing the alchemist space, and we're actually coming together to hold this same space from the two different dues. I think that's really cool. So that, you know, this space is actually being put on by, you know, Haifa and Samara presents, you know, the Renaissance architects. So anyway, yeah, that's I really like that pattern, and this is a whole lot of new things we're exploring all at once here. So
I think Anna has a hand raised.
go for it.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to raise something here to get a feeling of what everybody else thinks. I actually put on the very chaotic handbook a types of sessions or processes for space 2, in which I put on like 3 ideas of sessions, which space 2 being the alchemist, so to speak, space. And my thing is that my wish would be for the alchemist space not to be completely separate from the architect space, because I think they are both so intertwined and both are necessary for one another. And I don't know, personally, I think it would be a pity if it would be completely separate spaces and that people could attend only one of those spaces. I think that would be really sad, but that's just my opinion, and I would love to hear what everybody else thinks.
Is it okay if I respond, Anna? Cool. I think well, like one heard, and I think that the intentionality is not to separate and not have them be running like in a deep relationship with one another. I think the idea is to really establish separate bodies that come into relationship to like partnership, or come in relationship by walking together hand in hand kind of vibe. But that identity, that ability to kind of be able to claim and understand and set the pace and the patterns and the processes, the practices for the people that are showing up for alchemy and architects, giving them the space to be able to live differently, but to do so together, kind of like Haifa and Samara and Seeds do now. And so these many archetypal representations of what's already kind of happening in our larger bodies made present or available in the way the course is shaped up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if it's okay, Anna, I'd also just to add on to what Justin said, I absolutely agree with you. It would be a pity if this is like this separate space that does its own thing and then it posts what it did, you know, to Haifa. So that's true. It's so yeah, that wouldn't be the goal. It's more of creating within Samara while also sharing that. And to be honest, I personally, I wouldn't have any issue if anyone from Haifa or Seeds wants to join that. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I don't think this needs to be exclusive in any way. Yeah.
I see those two archetypes are complementing each other. When the alchemist looking into the possibilities and you know, what we can tap into, ideas, etc., and architects actually bringing it to the ground, to the structure, to more tangible aspects. So it might be good to create both spaces, to be honest. When alchemists coming with like lots of ideas, they got getting together and like making craziest ideas and just putting them on the paper, and then those ideas go to architects and they're like, okay, what's actually real and what's not. So that might be a possibility. And could be both spaces, could be not.
Julio.
Yes.
There's a lot of people wanting to talk, so for structure, just put your hand up and I'll go in order. So take away, Julio.
Yeah, so for me, this is not very clear what an alchemy is doing. So I didn't read this in the document, so I remember that you proposed that, Raiki, on the first call when Justin made a comment about maybe escalating the idea of bringing other ideas. But I mean, everyone should be able to bring other ideas, right? You don't have to be an alchemist to be able to see into the future and bring other ideas, right? So the question is, what is the purpose of this alchemy space that we're talking about? It's not clear for me. So if someone could clear this up, that would be great.
I'll respond really quickly to that, and then we'll go through the hand raisings. I'm going to change architects. I think maybe that's why there's been a hiccup here, because it's saying who somebody is. We have the same thing with the archetypes in both Samara and Haifa. So anyway, let's call the space architecting and alchemizing, so people can attend both. It's just what that space is about. Or we come up with some other verbs. I don't care. Second, I would love then if the people who are really touched into the alchemizing space at some point this week get together, pull through how they're envisioning this space being held, and then we could talk about it on next call, and then that can just be presented. You know, this is how we see that space happening. We've talked about it up until now is that, you know, the alchemizing space is more trying to tap into, you know, future possibilities, you know, where we're going. So it's removing just the strict lens of this is what seeds is and this is the game guide, and more opening up to the possibilities. And there's a lot of really beautiful, you know, processes and work that can happen to create the space for that. This is what Emily and Roz and I were all talking about on that call, and it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. And that's why I've even proposed that this alchemizing space happens Monday. So it kind of sets the tone, and then we run off of that energy for the Tuesday call into the architecting space, where we could then bring that into the seeds thing itself. So that's my interpretation so far, and I will stop now and go back to the hand raising. And Bangi, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot that's resonant with what you just said, Riaki. What I'm hearing is that they work closely together, but there's a need for a separate space with a very different quality. And I think that's really powerful to have those separate spaces, because they are very distinct. I see them working together. It was interesting mentioning Samara as the space. In some way, energetically and qualitatively, that makes sense. But it needs to be a space that isn't like Samara's space, in my mind. It's obviously open to everyone to come, but maybe there's a few people in Samara who can be a kind of lead in that space, because Samara's been fostering that kind of energy quite consciously and in a distinct way from Haifa. So yeah, really just seconding that. I see some hands have gone down.
Ooh, thanks, Bangi. Max, you still have your hand up? I saw you took it down, but I'm wondering if you still want to go.
No, thank you. I second all the previous ones.
Awesome. I see no other hands. Is there any other feedback on? Oops. Justin.
What I have. Oh, Justin, go ahead.
Wait, Julio, I'm gonna respond to you. So if you want to go, I'll add listen to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to to do a quick recap what we're the purpose of this academy, right? So from my understanding, of course, and maybe we should write that at some point, because this is I think this is what is leading to this kind of confusion. We don't have maybe the clarity of the purpose of this space, right? So and what I sense is the purpose is kind of twofold, right? It's first, we having the game guide reviewed, understood, and everyone aligned to it in thinking this is super great, and we're ready to submit this to the citizens to approve and say, okay, this is the best game guide ever. I mean, in terms of what we are doing here. And the other part is we want to kind of create a way for people to understand the game, because the game is so complex at some points that it's hard to play the game without understanding the game. And so we are creating a space for people to come and join and learn the game and learn to change the game, because the game is a living game, it keeps changing. So I see the purpose of this space is to kind of have first this game guide approved, and second, having this game guide learned and understood by everyone. So is that what I'm understanding? Is that makes sense for you all? Or is this different from what you have in? Because I think it's great for us to connect with that, so we can see if we are talking about the same kind of scope or vision. So I just wanted to bring that up.
I'll quickly respond to that and project what I originally saw for these two spaces. The real intention of this, if we're looking at the meta intention, not necessarily the KRs, is to help people understand the tools that are available to serve this renaissance, and so that they could be the stewards of this. Seeds being one of those tools, right? So this space is really about teaching what Seeds is, how it works, so that people understand how to respond and interact with this game and evolve it. Because right now it's, some people within Haifa that have a really deep understanding of the game, and that's a concentration of wisdom. So it's not a decentralized financial system if one organization has the set of wisdom of how it's being run. So that's really the intention here, is how to decentralize that wisdom and knowledge. The wisdom and knowledge is around the Seeds game itself, which is something that currently exists. These are current ideas, not future ideas. So the alchemy space, or the alchemist, or alchemizing, whatever we're calling this, is more about tapping into what the Renaissance is, what wants to be able to pull in those game-changing bits of information. So it's similar to what I would like to believe that I've been doing, and tons of other people in Haifa have been doing for so many years now, is we've been doing our own practice to tap into what wants to be, and then trying to bring that in, which is the entire process that's gotten Seeds in Haifa to this point so far. So that's why I saw the alchemizing spaces being really focused on that. It's up-leveling our ability to tap in with what wants to be. Why the alchemist or the architecting space is then taking that wisdom and putting it into reality. And both these spaces are really important to be able to steward this going forward. And the real objective here is to then decentralize that out, give that wisdom and knowledge and potential to as many people as possible, so that we gain resiliency in this movement. So that if tomorrow everyone in Haifa just happened to pass on to the other plane, Seeds can still be thriving, and that's not really a problem for it, which is really Haifa's intention here, right? Anyway, that's my projection. We have 9 minutes. I would love to hear from some other people as we start closing this down.
Yeah, this can be my checkout. I heard a voice, but I'm just gonna keep going because I don't know who it was, and I'm just so it's like I feel less woozy, which is exciting. No, I really appreciate this meeting. Was very like a collaborative. Last meeting was kind of like, I felt like it was a little bit more quiet, and so I love that we're all kind of active in this game right now. Julio, I completely agree with what kind of two major points that you called out, and then also Reiki's kind of more meta narrative really supports that, from what I can tell, and is aligned with that. And I would say, the thing I would recognize, in this kind of game, the alchemizing requires architecture, the architecture innovation. That architecture of innovation is a very real kind of a way of looking at how do I scaffold, or how do I create the structures that support this kind of end goal, or creating spaces or places that achieve a certain type of livability, workability, capabilities within humans. And so the architecture is kind of inherent, and so is the alchemizing, the ability to kind of recognize within yourself where you are and what you are trying to accomplish, and then kind of find the inner resources by mixing and matching and combining different elements in order to become what you know is possible, even if no one else knows it. And so that's part of the creative, I think, innovation process. And so I think these both are, as archetypes, are things that we will practice and embody together. I think the kind of beauty here, by naming them and giving them their own sense of identity or kind of bodies, is allowing us to all figure out, well, what is that difference? And kind of holding that tension and holding that space for that to kind of emerge, because we already know it's kind of here, but we don't really know what it is yet. why is Samara different than C is different than Haifa? Where's that space begin? Where's that end? Not necessarily it's about those differences, but I'm saying that in the sense of like the question itself is kind of the thing that I think is really most beautiful about this. And so I want to kind of like, my intentionality is to hold that inquiry and not need to have definitive answers, although I'm kind of giving a definitive answer, in order to kind of challenge or to kind of have that tension be where the alchemizing is happening. Maybe that's different in an approach as well, like to define versus to inquire, or to use inquiry to resolve tension, or to kind of hold the tension for as long as possible to see what can come, what's created from that place, as like different approaches to the same kind of desire for solution. That's me. I'll put it in the middle.
I'll pick it up because I absolutely love that. I feel like I've been waiting for some time in Samara in a way to have these two complementary spaces, but clearly defined spaces. So I just find that really exciting, just taking in what Justin said. I love that, to have a very clear container for that holding of that question, and then a very clear container to really deal with a lot of this. How does the game work? How is it going to work for others? Exploring that complexity, but in a much more structural way. So my checkout is really just excitement about that. Looking forward to seeing how we extract knowledge out of this as well, because my role's to do with that. So one thing I have in mind, which maybe I'll bring as an agenda item next time, is the videos, getting access to the back end of Zoom and Vimeo. That's a request I've made already of managed services, but I don't think it sort of fits within the whole program of managed services. So I'm wondering if that might be different in this space. So would love to hear any responses if anyone wants to get in touch with me on Discord about that. I'll get in touch with Sanjay about that and ask him. But that is a kind of key thought in my mind as we sort of end this session. And
Sanjay and Trent.
Sanjay and Trent, yeah. We've got a regular meeting on Fridays, so I'll bring that up there as well, and maybe that can all feed into tomorrow as well. Aware of time, so can I hand it on to someone, Ricky?
Yeah, so super quick. This is kind of what I see the alchemist space doing, and we can learn from this. So like, how do we tap into this space of infinite wisdom where we're in flow? So we're not like calling on people by raising hands. Some Aboriginal cultures are fantastic at this, where they all like channel energy at each other, and then they just let flow kind of popcorn through people. Like, it's actually part of the culture to cut people off. If you feel like flow is coming through you, that's fine. And I've seen conversations emerge this way. I've been part of them, and it's fantastic. So that's how we can probably start closing this. If anyone has like some flow of wisdom and knowledge that they want to bring into this space right now, please do.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, basically adding to what Justin, Bongi, and you just said, concerning the alchemist space and so on. Basically, the bridge communication, it's going to be a part of that. So the bridge communication, the flow that you just talked about, this flow of energy and flow of information, that's basically, that communication bridge is, so to say, inherently tied to that alchemist space. And for my checkout, I'd say, what a great and coherent call for having so many people on it, and so many people working on this document, which has so many different aspects. I mean, I said different a million times now, and this call went really well for all of these, for all of these different people and thoughts and projects. So yeah, I'm pretty amazed at the coherence of this call.
A piece of flow takeaway. Alchemizing space needs to happen, definitely. I mean, life's asking for it. So please take the handbook that we have for the architect space, and let's mirror it. There is some wisdom that you're probably asking people to tap into. It's the same thing that we have a reading list for the architect space. Let's have a reading list for the alchemizing space. So people who are really attached to that, like, go through, kind of duplicate what happened with the architect handbook, and maybe we could provide that next week. Anyone else with something they'd like to share into the space before we go?
Actually, two things. One is I'd love to ask you to join the Kanban board if you can, at least for the leads of the tasks, so we can kind of track what's going on. And if you have questions regarding that, please contact me, and if you need assistance getting onto the board. And so it's going to be a great way for us to track what's going on in the future. So. And the second one is that I'm super grateful for this space. I see this is one of the most important parts of the game that we're playing, and Seeds is a new game for the society as a whole, right? For the planet, right? And we definitely want to make sure we know how to play this game, and we teach others to play as well, right? So I'm super inspired to be here with you all. Thank you.
I'm going to flag something. Let's eliminate the word teaching from our vocabulary, because we are not teachers. We are facilitators, and God damn it, we're learning just as much as everyone else. Sorry for that phrase if anyone's offended by that. But I don't think any of us are in a position to do teaching. We're all, learning from the same source. I think what we're all trying to do is co-learn from that source. So anyway, I'm gonna be the asshole who keeps making sure that we don't get too egoistic here.
It's great to have an asshole that uses swear words. Thank you.
Yeah. Pretty firm there. Last thing, we're right at the hour, but there are 3 people who haven't added their beautiful words into this space. So we've got Nikki, Melina, and Christoph. If either one of you, or I would love to just hear just a few words from each of you, or whatever wisdom you have, and then we can close up from there. Maybe Nikki, if you want to go first.
Yeah, sure. No, I missed the first half of the session, so I'm not sure what was talked about and what wasn't regarding the roles, but what is really alive with me at the moment is to think about how to weave all this wisdom into coherent, more or less coherent stories that we can pass on to others in Seeds and beyond, and how to build bridges between people in different circles, and how to make like some sort of order out of chaos. And that's something I'm thinking about regarding my contribution at the moment. And it was really great to join and hear all of you.
Yeah, I can say for myself that I'm hearing a lot of things, and I guess because I haven't been too into the ecosystem before now, I think it's actually maybe not an unfavorable position per se, because in a sense, I'm coming into this with more fresh eyes. Like, of course, I don't know what many of these things mean, but at the same time, that's the whole point of what I'm getting. It's so that people that don't know yet what Seeds is about, or what the differences between, I don't know, Hi-Fi and Samara and Seeds are, how do they come into this and acquire, basically the idea of what this is about and the tools of how to live this game, So yeah, I'll most likely be talking to Julio, haha, about this more and see how I can, concretely contribute, but very happy to be here.
Christoph, and then we'll close it out. Thank you, Nikki and Melina.
Hello, I'm sorry we do not have the same UTC standard here in France, so I missed the beginning of the meeting, but I'm very happy to see that how many people want to participate. That's all.
Ooh, thank you. Beautiful people. I will be much more punctual going forward with these spaces. So we're 3 minutes over. So without further ado, have beautiful days, and we will see you all next week and likely in between.